Savior. It's really just, I mean, I'm not trying to belittle anything, but it's really just a cool story. The life of Christ without him being God in the form of man, without him dying on the cross and raising again, it's just a really neat story. He was just a really good prophet. That sound like some other form of religion? Yeah. That's what Islam says, right? They recognize Jesus. They recognize him as a good prophet. They don't recognize him as God. But I'm here to tell you this morning, he's God. He was God. He is God. And he'll always be God. Whether he's in heaven as the Father, whether he was walking the earth as Jesus Christ as the Son, whether he's living and dwelling among us as the Holy Spirit right now, he's still God. This is his time. This is his season. Christmas is about Jesus. How many of you have ever said this? Or something like this, or maybe you've just heard, don't raise your hand, because I don't want you to put yourself, well, you can raise your hand because I'm going to ask like 3 questions, and at least one of those questions is not self-incriminating. So if you raise your hand, nobody will know which way it is, okay? How many of you ever said, ever felt like saying, or ever heard somebody say this statement? It just don't seem like Christmas. Just don't. Now, my wife probably said that about 2 years ago when on Christmas we wore short sleeves. And like a few days after Christmas, we were sitting on my cousin's back deck playing music in short sleeves and blue jeans. Awesome. It was like a Florida Christmas. I loved it. Now, some people say that don't feel like Christmas. We went to a concert Thursday night, and one of the groups that was there is originally from Australia. And they said, we sing all the same Christmas songs that y'all sing, he said, but they just don't make sense to us. You know, like I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. You know, one of them says something about Frosty the Snowman. They've never seen him. They don't know what Frosty the Snowman is. They moved to the States. They live in Nashville now. They probably get some white Christmases now. Christmas. What does it take for you for it to feel like Christmas? Does it take a Christmas tree up and presents under it? Is it not Christmas until 99.5 starts playing nothing but Christmas music? Is that what makes it Christmas for you? Is it not Christmas until Tanglewood turns the first light bulb on? Is that what starts Christmas for you? If 99.5 never played the first Christmas song, and the power was out at Tanglewood, and your Christmas tree, you forgot to water it, and you walked by and brushed it, and all the needles fell off of it, would it still be Christmas for you? See, the problem is sometimes it just don't feel like Christmas. And the problem with that is, and the reason that is because sometimes we have lost the wonder of Christmas. Now, we went to this concert. You know my wife, and you know me. I'm not quite as bad as she is about this, but I'm still pretty close. I'm cheap. My wife's cheaper. If my wife can get a deal, she's going to get a deal. It might mean we have seats in 4 different places. There was only 4 of us. They worked it out where her and Ellie could sit together. And Abby was right behind them. And I was sitting over with these people I didn't even know. But it was all right, because I had a better view when they went to stage C. I'm just going to throw that out there. But my wife said my daughter had never been to a concert. And if you've never been to a For King and Country concert, they put on a good concert. It's just lights, and they're just high energy. And my daughters, neither one of them had ever been to a concert. And my wife said when all those lights started coming, if you haven't seen the video of For King and Country's Little Drummer Boy on YouTube, I urge you to go watch it. It's awesome. But when they started off with that song, and it was dark, with just a spotlight on the one of them playing a snare drum, and all of a sudden it just went black. And then all the lights came on. And my wife said the look in that little girl's eyes was something else when she saw all those lights. See, that's the way children are at Christmas. You want to watch a baby just sit and stare? Sit it in front of a Christmas tree and watch them just stare at the, especially if you got one of them trees where the lights blink, or if you have one of those trees and your wife didn't realize that they were going to blink. Because if it's like my house, that would get fixed. Don't know that my wife would go for the blinking Christmas lights. Better yet, if you got one of those Christmas lights or Christmas trees that plays music, you sit a baby down in front of that and watch them. They're just going to sit and stare. And if you got a really big silver Christmas ornament, ball Christmas ornament on there, and they can see themselves in it. Why do you think cats like Christmas trees? I think it's because they're partly possessed and they know they're not supposed to be there. But it draws them. It's the awe. It's the wonder of Christmas. Some of you might not like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That magic, they call it, of Christmas. There's no magic in Christmas. It's a lot of wonder. It's a lot of awe. But people have coined that as the magic of Christmas. What they're really saying is the wonder of Christmas. That's what they mean. They don't really mean true magic like people think when they say that word. It's the wonder. It's the awesomeness of everything that happens. I'm getting excited about Christmas this year, a little more than usual probably. Maybe it's because I got this red and green light just staring at me. It's like, Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. But whatever it is, I get excited about Christmas. Tree, we put a real tree up at the house this year. First time in probably a decade we've done that. Makes me sound really old if I say a decade. It's not a century like some of you, but a decade. I'll move on. I'm meddling. I'm going to get in trouble. But the wonder of Christmas. The lights go up. My neighbors put their musical Christmas lights outside. They play songs and move around. Thank goodness they don't know what a PA is. You just amplify that. But Christmas. My daughters this year before Christmas, one of them, I don't remember which one, I think it was you, said, I wonder if they're going to put their musical Christmas lights up this year. They're used to that, right? There are things in our life that kick off Christmas for us. Ours got messed up this year because of sickness. And our Christmas kickoff didn't happen on the first Saturday of December like we usually do at the house with the family. But if I'd let that mess up my whole Christmas, because it's not Christmas till we do that, I lost the whole point. I've lost every bit of it. I've lost all the wonder. I've lost all the awesomeness of Christmas. See, I think the problem with our country, and it is definitely has a lot to do with America, we've put people on the moon. Most of you, few of you can't, but most of you could reach in your pocket or your pocketbook right now and search anything you wanted to on the World Wide Web. I have my wallet in here. On your debit card, there's a little chip on your debit card. It's called an RFID. And that little chip contains a lot of information about you and your account, and it helps secure your account when you use it at the Dollar General. Because you shouldn't be going to Walmart. I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. Some of you, I think, have asked my wife, what does he have against Walmart? It's not anything major that they've done wrong. It's just they don't do anything right. One of these days, somebody's going to pick up on this through the YouTube feed that hopefully is still going this morning and working right. We've got some new stuff back there to get that going. And maybe one of these other competitors will let me be their spokesman. I don't know. But I'll be like the spokesman for the Dollar Tree. I wonder what they make. They say everything's $1, right? I done got so down a rabbit trail, I've lost my whole train of thought. We can do all these things. You got the chip in the card. There, I'm back around full circle. My wife's going to have to get cue cards for me so that I can stay on track. Medicine, modern medicine, things people died from, simple diseases that people died from. Malaria. Malaria has killed and still does so many people throughout our country. The medicine for malaria is dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. It's just a matter of getting it to them. When my wife was in Africa, that was one of the medications that they would give out to people, if I'm not mistaken. And it's cheap. When she went, she had to take it. When I was in Afghanistan, I was supposed to take it. I'm not always good at taking medicine. But it wasn't an expensive medicine. We've done all this stuff. What people used to go to the doctor, I guess with something hurting in them, and the doctor would be like, "Does it hurt here?" They're like, "Yeah, it hurts there." And the doctor say, "Well, here, take this pill." Now when you go, "Yeah, it hurts there," they say, "Here, lay back on this table and we'll run you through a donut." And they scan you. And they can look inside of you. And they can figure out what's going on with you. Things have advanced to the point that it takes so much more to shock us. Listen, there was a time, if you saw two men or two women holding hands in public, it would have turned your stomach and just blew your mind. And today, we don't even see it. Not because it don't happen, but because we don't notice it. There was a time that when you saw somebody on a Sunday on your way to church out mowing the yard, better yet, there was a time that on a Sunday, if you saw a farmer plowing in a field, unless there was some major something coming that would just destroy their whole crop if they did not get it in that Sunday, it would shock you. There was a time that if somebody would have said the preacher can stand up in the pulpit and preach from a TV screen, it would have shocked us to believe. Some of you, when you were my age and younger, you'd have never dreamed that I'd be standing here with a screen in front of me instead of a piece of paper written by hand, preaching the word. There's some things that we have gotten so advanced on. Technology is advancing so fast that nothing surprises us anymore. How many of you were surprised when the bakers in Colorado got sued for not serving the homosexual couple? How many of you that shocked you? A couple. Most of us, it didn't even shock us because we saw it coming. How many of you would be shocked if you found out that a church in North Carolina and a pastor in North Carolina had a lawsuit brought against them because they refused to perform a same-sex wedding that went against Scripture, went against them? How many of you that would shock you? It wouldn't shock me. See, because our world has progressed to a point that we no longer have wonder. There's no more anticipation. The only anticipation today is whether or not the new iPhone is going to have bugs in it that's going to cause it not to work. We know Samsung doesn't do that. iPhone does. Whether the new iWatch is actually going to work like it's supposed to. That's the things today that cause us to wonder. People don't sit around and contemplate anymore when Jesus is coming. This is absolutely not in the notes. I'm just going to stay here for a minute, though, because I like it. People don't sit around and open the Scriptures and wonder what they're saying to them. People don't read the Christmas story and get a smile on their face and a glow and a warmth in their heart. We've lost the wonder of Christmas, church. Christmas is just another holiday. It's just another opportunity to waste money and spend money we don't have to buy things that people don't need. That's what Christmas has turned into. It's turned into a race to see who can buy the kid the best present that they don't even need to start with. Now, both of my daughters have phones. One doesn't work. It's just on the internet because it's an old one she uses to play on. My oldest has a phone because it doesn't cost us anything. Because I'm robbed from T-Mobile all the time. They're constantly paying me to be their customer. It's great. Otherwise, my oldest would not have a phone and my youngest wouldn't have one to play on. I'm not going to go hand my kids a brand new iPhone X that cost over $1,000 so they can have the coolest and the neatest thing for Christmas so I can be super parent. You know what I did? We took them to a concert instead. I told my wife this year, I said, it's not about giving them everything. Let's make some memories this year. They'll never forget that concert. We sat in 4 different places. I told them afterwards we could talk about it and see how we liked it. I'm just kidding. It was a good concert. But we've got so wrapped up in it being a holiday. Oh, I get a day off work. Kids are like, oh, I get out of school for 2 weeks or a week now, whatever it is. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, it's just become another holiday. But can I just remind you this morning, it's not just a holiday. It's a holy day. It's the day my Jesus was born. And the passion and the excitement that I never imagined I would have standing in this pulpit this morning if you knew how my yesterday went. If you knew when I actually got this sermon together, some of you would go, what? I'll tell you this morning. Because I come home last night and was so tired, I couldn't do it. I'd gone all day. I got up this morning. Thank God it was part of a series, so it wasn't that difficult. I saw a pastor friend of mine. He posted on Facebook how excited he was about preaching today, and I'm like, I wish I could feel that. And here I am. Not because I'm preaching what's on here, but because I'm preaching what's in here and in here right now. I ain't even flipped the page yet. Y'all are in trouble. There's 13 pages. I'm on page 1. I'm just kidding. There's only like 5. It was a joke. There's only like 5. Let me flip the page. We've lost our wonder. Last week we looked at the shepherds, and they're probably going to beat me back there in the sound booth because I'm not going to belabor and read from 8 up to where we read last week. But I want us to start, if y'all can, I want you to start on verse 15 of Luke chapter 2. I'm going to give them a minute to get there because they have from 8 up. And we might go back and read that at a later time. We good? All right, put it up there. Starting in verse 15. It says this. We read this last week. When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, let us now go to Bethlehem and see what has happened. I like that. That's what I want people saying about Yadkinville and this church. Let's go to Yadkinville, to that little church, and see what's happened. Something has happened there. And the same thing that happened in that stable can happen here. It's a place where people can go to, see what happened, and find Jesus. That's what the church is supposed to be. You know, there was only 3 people in that stable. There's not much more than that here today. But 3 people took the gospel to the entire world. Think about that. A religion that started out with a baby, a mama, and a man that wasn't even his daddy. A messed up family that was ordained by God. A man that loved a child that he didn't conceive, just like it was his own. A woman that conceived a child out of wedlock. A baby that was born and stuck in a feed trough. Started a religion. And I don't say religion like we mean it today. I mean, it started a church that has radically changed the world from 3 people from one messed up family that were outcast. I don't for 1 minute believe that her family or his family wanted anything to do with them. I'm not convinced that Jesus ever met his grandparents. I'm not convinced that Jesus ever met his aunts and uncles. Because I firmly am convinced that because, and this is not because of what you read here, but in the story, but because of what you read here in the first part of the book, and the shame and the reproach that would have brought on that family. Do y'all understand how messed up this story is? This family was a shame to the rest of their family. She was pregnant and she wasn't married. And Joseph had the gall to stay with her. See, Joseph, this is the part we don't think about much. Joseph had the chance to redeem himself. The scripture says in the King James that he was minded to put her away privately, or privily, or however that word's said in there. I still, to this day, don't know 100% what that means. Some like, oh, he's going to kill her. I don't know that was the case. But you know, adultery And having sex out of wedlock was a stonable offense back then. They could have killed her. He could have put her into the courts. I don't think Joseph was a nobody. Joseph was a local business owner. He was a carpenter. People came to him. People knew him. He was like the start of IKEA, just with good quality stuff. People knew Joseph. I'm not sure they knew Mary. The Bible gives me no inclination that Mary was well known in the place. And I think Joseph was probably only known to a point, just because of his business. People that wanted him to build a bookcase or a chair. Or a door, I guess. I don't know. He could have said, you know what? No. You say, preacher, where are you going with this? I want you to understand the awesomeness of this story. Because until we really grab a hold of the wonder of Christmas, we lose it all. We don't get it. That's why we go around and we don't have Christmas joy. That's why we go around and we ain't got joy, period. We don't understand the roots, so we can't understand the end. If you don't know where you come from, how are you going to know where you're going? And when you get there, how can you be thankful for where you've been? I'm not saying we got to get so hung up on our past that we let it bring us down. Jesus could have done that. Jesus, by the world standard, now y'all think about this. There's some people that probably throw me out of a church for making a statement like this. I hope y'all weren't any of them. Jesus, by the world standards, was an illegitimate child. He was born by a lady, and they didn't know who his daddy was. Do you know what Joseph did? He grabbed a hold of her. He said, baby, we're going to get through this. I think Joseph was human, and I think that's why he had a dream. Because I don't think if he'd had the dream, I'm not sure things would have went quite the same way. But I think God knew, listen, I had to tell Mary, I got to tell Joseph. You know what the problem is? Just like we talked about previously, we don't get still enough to listen to why we're going through what we're going through. Joseph and Mary could have went a totally different course. What if it was today? What if Mary was a 14-year-old, 15-year-old teenager today? What if Mary was my daughter? And she walked up to me and said, Daddy, we got to talk. She'd probably walked up like this. No doubt Mary probably walked up with her head down too, because she didn't know what was about to happen. She didn't know how they were going to respond. I think one of the best depictions of this story was in the Christmas Experience that we watched last Christmas, or 2 Christmases ago, whichever it was. You see Mary and Joseph standing there with the rabbi and a little bit of family, going through their processes of marriage. And everybody walks away, shuns them. See, that's the awesomeness of Christmas, because Jesus was born into a messed up family. We all have messed up families. I don't care how good your family is, somebody in your family is messed up. I heard a preacher say one time, if nobody, or no, wasn't a preacher, it was at the concert the other night, if you don't have a crazy uncle, you're probably it. We all have messed up families. The dynamics of our families are so much different. Some of you may feel like you have the perfect family. Look out of your tree a little further. The nuts are there. Everybody's got nuts in their family tree. I'm not going to say that. Move on. Jesus came into a messed up family. He came and was born and he didn't have nothing to really clothe him with the right way. They found what they could, and they wrapped him up. I think we read it in the King James and read that swaddling clothes, and we think that's so majestic. They wrapped him in rags, y'all. Who knows if the rags were there from the barn or the stable? Or maybe they took some of Joseph's extra clothes and ripped them to put on. I don't know what he was laid in or what he was wrapped in. I don't believe for 1 minute that it was royalty. I don't believe that it was purple or blue or like they do in the hospitals today, because they never know what the babies are going to be. They have like the blue and the purple and the pink striped. Like it fits either one of them. Whatever they could find. That's how Jesus was born. Got one verse of this thing read. Let me go back to it. Verse 16 says, so they came hurrying and found Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they made widely known the word which was told them concerning this child. I'm going to stop right there. They made widely known the word. They heard the message. They responded to the message. They found Jesus, and they told everybody about it. Can we skip ahead? Y'all, I know I'm throwing y'all for a loop back there today, but I got to preach this the way I feel it right now, not the way it's written. Can we skip ahead to those where we have it from about 5 different translations? Verse number 7, number 18. Did you put that on there? Are we there? Can I come down there? Can I bring this and come down there? I like doing this. I need me a smaller one, a little hand thing, so I can just carry it around. Luke 2:18. The New Living Translation says it this way. All who heard the shepherd's story were responded. Hold that. Verse 17 in the New Living Translation says, after seeing him being Jesus, the shepherds told everyone what had happened and what the angel had said to them about this child. The shepherds went out. They say Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, but the shepherds were the first one to spread it. Mary brought it. But the shepherds come to church and heard about it and went into the community and talked about it. The New Living Translation says that all who heard the shepherd's story were astonished. The NASB puts it this way, and all who heard it wondered at the things which are told them by the shepherd. You said, preacher, why are we reading from so many? I want you to get a good picture of what was really going on here. And I think all of these translations paint such a word picture of how the shepherds felt. They didn't just go out and go, hey, did you see Jesus? Because if they just walked out and said, hey, did you see Jesus? People would not be astonished. People wouldn't wonder. The MEV puts it this way, and all those who heard it marveled at what the shepherds told them. They were astonished. They wondered. They marveled. The King James says, and all they that heard it wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds. The Holman Christian Standard Bible says, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. I'm going to tell you something. If you're not sharing Jesus where people are in wonder, where people are astonished, where people are amazed, where people marvel, if those words don't describe how people feel after you tell them about Jesus, you're doing it the wrong way. The shepherds took the story that they had been told, validated it. How did they validate it? They experienced it. And they went into the community and they spread it. I'm going to tell you right now, the church is one of the best places to spread stuff. You want to find out about whether or not Edna, I can say that because we ain't got an Edna in the church, whether or not Edna has got a new boyfriend that her husband don't know about, go to the church, they'll tell you. Call up dear old sister so-and-so. Go fishing. I'm not going to leave us out of it, man. Go fishing with brother so-and-so. They'll tell you, we're good at spreading junk. The church is really good about spreading. That's why people don't want to come. Because they feel like we're going to talk about them. You know why they feel like we're going to talk about them? Because we got a history of talking about them. We got to change the course of history. What could the shepherds have done different? The shepherds could have went out and said, y'all got to know this. There's a baby up there that was born. That guy ain't even his daddy, and she don't even know who the daddy is. Sound like anything you've ever heard said? Possibly about somebody that you didn't know their story? And that instead of praying with them and really trying to minister to them, you went out and slammed her in the ground and run her down because she got pregnant out of wedlock. Shame on you. That's not what Jesus would do. WWJD, that ain't it. You know what that is? That's WWDD. That's what the devil would do. The story of Jesus could have been so different if people didn't experience him. If they weren't awestruck by what they saw. God don't do stuff little. When God does something, God is like, "Blah! My son is here." And he went blah to some dirty shepherds. And it got really bright. And I know it scared them to death. Because I'm guessing these shepherds probably weren't church people too much. You know why I feel like they weren't church people? Because God has a hard time talking to church people. They don't listen. I'm a church people. I'm guilty sometimes. You want to see God really use somebody, let him get a hold of a crackhead. Let a pregnant teenager walk through our doors and we surround them with love and teach them how to be a mother and tell them that not only is their life important, but that baby's life is important. You watch what God will do with her. You let a child walk through here that's 10 years old and just lost mama and daddy and is in an orphanage. And we wrap our arms around them and love them, and we become mama and daddy to them. See, that's the story. That's the Christmas story. It's a story of a God that became a child that was born in a messed up family, in a messed up town, in a place that didn't have room for him, that nobody cared about him, but he came anyway because he loved us. You tell the Christmas story that way and watch people's eyes go, "Never thought of that." Because here's how they think of it. They think when Jesus was born that the angels sang. My wife's going, "That did sound like an angel, but it wasn't one of God's." Jesus was born. The angels sang. The sky was clear. It was probably raining, but the sky, because that would have made it even more cool. If it was raining and the angels would have been there. It probably wasn't raining, okay? I'm just thinking this has been really cool. But they think it was all perfect. And my wife's looking at me. That probably means there's some verse that I'm not thinking about right now that talks about it being a midnight clear. I don't know. But he came. And we picture it because we painted this picture. Look at these shepherds. This is the picture we painted. They're clean. Their clothes match. It's the perfect Christmas. The angel. Give me that. Okay. First says she has blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm like, this is getting weird. The angel is in perfect pose. She's angelic. This is what we think the first Christmas looked like. Can I tell you what the first Christmas looked like? Mary was a mess, y'all. Any of you ever been in the delivery room? I've been in the OR when my wife gave birth because they had to do C-section, and she was still a mess. She's still beautiful, but she's a mess. A beautiful mess, but a mess. It's not working. I'm still digging the hole. I'm trying to smile through it. It's not working. Joseph was freaked out. You want me to tell you how I know? Ask my wife how hard I hit those speed bumps on the way to the hospital. She still had like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And I'm like, I got to get there in 10 minutes. I live in East Bend. We went to Winston. That little Saturn we had taking speed bumps pretty good. It wasn't a perfect night. The perfect night would have been that Mary and Joseph would have found a place to stay at a hospital. And they would have been attended to. And all of her family and all of his family would have been there because they would have accepted them. But instead, they were alone and scared. A 14, I know I throw that age out there and it's maybe never been proven, but that's pretty close to the age that they think she is. A 14-year-old girl pregnant by God. You don't think she's scared? Joseph, who was probably older than her due to the way customs and traditions went back then, was probably a little older than her. Has a 14-year-old pregnant woman that's not his wife, and he's going through a census. You don't think he's a little scared? Joseph, who the angel said, that's my son she's carrying. You don't think he was a little scared? Hey, listen, I've messed up with my kids. I told you last week, I about walked out and left them in the eye doctor. Can you imagine how Joseph felt? Can you imagine how Joseph felt when they looked around after they were coming back, after Jesus was older, and they'd gone to Jerusalem, and they were coming back from the temple, and he got hung. Jesus was out in the temple showing everybody up. They didn't know it. They look around and like, where's Jesus? Kind of like the video we showed last year. Jesus is not here. Jesus is not here. I think that's probably what Mary looked like. Jesus! Freaked out. They lost God's son. Can you imagine how that would feel to know you're going to have that weight? This is the wonder of the story. A child that was born and laid in a manger. And the shepherds who came were not the people that should have been welcoming the king. How do they welcome kings? Trumpets, banners, red carpet, soldiers with swords, people bringing them food. Instead, Jesus is born in a stable, and they don't even know where they're going to get food. Sorry, Kathy, I don't think they had pizza. Those of you that don't know that story, we did a Christmas play one time. Each time that we would practice the play, Kathy would bring something different for us to eat during that time. We were supposed to be eating bread during the actual play, but we had different things, pizza, grapes, whatever. Probably had juice boxes one night or something. I don't remember. But this story, I hope that, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to try not to keep beating this, but I want you to understand the awesomeness of this story. We picture it so perfect. It was a perfect night. The stars were shining bright. I could make a poem. Probably not, because that's as good as I can get. 2 lines. I'm done. But it was perfect. Joseph is sitting there and Mary is looking so beautiful. I doubt it. Telling you, Mary didn't have time to put her makeup on. Mary had been riding a donkey. Mary probably stunk. Joseph had been walking. I am sure his sandals had foot odor. This was not the perfect night. They were not the perfect family. But they were the chosen family. They weren't perfect, but God chose them. Mary wasn't perfect. Joseph wasn't perfect. Mary had her faults. Mary doubted. Joseph had his faults. Joseph wanted to do something different with the situation. But God had a plan for them. We've got to find the wonder. The shepherds, when they found Jesus, when they came to Jesus and they saw what the angels had told them, they got so excited about it that they run out through the neighborhood telling everybody. Now, I don't see in here where everybody come rushing, but I can't help but think some of them did. Because if you read on through it, we're going to find out what their response was, which we've already read through some of that. But in verse 18, all those who heard it marveled at what the shepherds told them. I don't think people were awestruck. I don't think people were amazed. I don't think people were in wonder. I don't think people marveled and didn't go try to find out. So here's what happens. When a messed up family gives birth to the king, people pay attention. Now they become important. There's a switch in the plot now. There's a power switch. Now they're important. Not only do the people there, are they marveled at what they're seeing. Enter the wise men. Now the king's even on to this kid. They went from not being able to find a room to the king wanting him dead. Think about it. What a story. Ain't none of you got a story that cool. I don't have a story that cool. I asked somebody last night that works for me. She was born in another country. And I asked her a story because I think people's stories and how they end up here is just really cool. I'm like, I don't have a cool story like that. I was born a redneck, still a redneck, always be a redneck. Just who I am. Wear my cowboy boots and occasionally my hat and get in my Prius. Really messes with people. But Jesus had a cool story. He was the Son of God. And I still can't get away from the fact that at any moment he could have stood up and said, Mama, I want some food. Jesus could have got up at 2 minutes old and walked to the bathroom if he wanted to. This is gross, but y'all think about it. Instead, he laid there and messed himself and cried because he wanted to feel everything we felt. That's the story. This Christmas, when you lose the wonder of the story, think back to it. I had something, I'm so off of these notes that it ain't even funny. There's a part I had something written down here I wanted to read to you. There it is. This Christmas, when we are so wrapped up with what's going on, we need to focus on the story, because here's what's happened. Even Christians, we've secularized Christmas. Christmas has become just another holiday. And when non-Christians try to find the real meaning of Christmas, it is hard for them to do it because Christians have messed it up. Can I preach hard and pointed just a minute? Thank you, I will. See, because what's happened Billy Graham say in an interview that he did when we went down to the library, that they said, what would you do different? He said, I wouldn't travel as much. I said, what do you mean you wouldn't travel as much? Look at all the people that got saved. He said, no, I'm not talking about crusades. He was talking about the interviews and the needless travel that didn't really do any good and win souls to Christ. He said, I would have rather spent that time, basically what he said, pondering, in study, in the Word. As great as Billy Graham is, as much good as he has done for the kingdom of God, as many people as have come to Christ through him, the man at probably 80 years old or better at that, probably older than that. I guess he's probably in his 90s because I think it was one of the current news anchors that was interviewing him. At his age, his regret was, I just didn't sit and ponder enough. We got to ponder. Stand with me. In the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, some of you may have read that. Dan Millman tells a story of a little girl named Sachi. When she was 4 years old, her baby brother was born. She began to ask her parents to leave her alone with the new baby. Now, if you've ever had a 4-year-old and a new baby, you know that's probably not a good idea because jealousy causes them to do stupid things. They were afraid of that as well. So they kept putting her off and told her, no, we're not going to do that. Over time, though, they realized she didn't have jealousy, so they got curious. And they decided they were going to let her have this little private moment with her baby brother. She goes in, she's 4 years old, or however old she was at the time that happened. She goes into the room and shuts the door behind her. Her parents crack the door open because they still don't trust her, and they're curious about what she's going to do. And she walks up to her little brother. She puts her face close to his, and she says, baby, tell me what God feels like. I'm starting to forget. The closeness. We forgot what it feels like to be close to God. We need to get in a moment where we can worship, where we can stand in awe, where we can stand in wonder. And Christmas is an awesome time to do that. Christmas is an awesome time to be able to snuggle up close to God and see Him and feel Him and hear His voice again. If we'll celebrate Christmas snuggled up to Jesus, we won't have to wonder what it feels like to feel God. We won't have to wonder what He's trying to tell us. As we wrap up this series, we won't have to wonder what He's saying to us. We won't get so stressed that we miss Him because we'll stay wrapped up with Him. I ask you today, does your wonder need to be rekindled? You need to reawaken the wonder in your life. Are you one of those that needs to see Christmas again for the first time and feel the emotion and the wonder of Christmas? And here's what I challenge you to do. Be like a child. Open your eyes. Look at Christmas like a kid would look at Christmas. Get excited about waking up on Christmas morning. Get excited about being together with family, but most important, get close to Jesus. Put Him back in the forefront of your Christmas. Let Him truly be your Lord and be your God and be your King of Kings and your Lord of Lords, and be like the shepherds and get so close to Him that you get so excited you can't help but tell it. Christmas song says, go tell it on the mountain. That's what we need to do. We need to get so close to Jesus that we can't keep our mouth shut about it. We need to open our eyes, open our hearts and our minds. We open our ears so that we can hear what He's trying to say to us. And we need to let God pierce the darkness in your life. Because I'm going to tell you what He can do. He can take, this time of year is the moment we can minister to people probably the most of any other time of the year. He can take the darkness, pierce it with the light, and change their heart. I want every head bowed, every eye closed for just a minute. This morning, if you don't know Jesus, if you've walked away from Him and you say, preacher, I just want to rededicate my life to Him today. I want to give myself to Him afresh and renewed. I want to start again. I want to start walking. I want to just live for Him. I want to feel what you're talking about. You say, preacher, I want the Christmas story to make me feel like you feel. And I invite you to these altars. Let Him be Lord of your life. Let Jesus be the king of your heart. Let him not just be a baby in a manger, but let him be a God on a throne that's coming again. And I have one more request this morning. I want every person that will to come to these altars. Don't bow. Don't hang your head low. I've given you the opportunity to get things right with Jesus. That's still a valid, that opportunity is still there, by the way. It never goes away. That's what's so cool about it. But I invite you to these altars this morning. Every person that will, you can just come and stand. You can come stand and lift your hands. We're going to sing this Christmas song. I don't think we've sung it yet this season, but we're going to sing it this morning. And I want us to just come and worship Jesus for a few minutes.